It was a lot of fun, a lot of work, and we've been meeting much less frequently in the previous years, so it wasn't as much of an impact on my life. Where currently is, other than sleep and eating, pretty much what I live on.
This year's like the first time we got proper stab at it, really.
Between there's about 15 of us in the group at the moment, and we all become like quite good friends, and it's quite good. We all go to the pub sometimes and like have a drink.
I'm not gonna lie, it takes up a lot of time, but it's an enjoyable fun time.
8 years now since the last time we raced a car, and that car was being built with a lot of passion, no money.
Formula student is basically at the start of the ladder.
You're going out, you do it yourself. You know, there's not like a sort of instructions. This is what you do.
Universities from, to be honest, all over the world come together and compete.
To go to Silverstone hopefully, and to see my car, or the car that I helped to build, being raced would be amazing.
Yeah, you can't really get much better than this.
It's going to be really good to go to Silverstone and sort of be able to meet up with like big companies, like race teams, things like that.
You don't necessarily have to be an engineer to take part. There's so many different aspects.
Probably the best way to get to motorsport.
Great chance to get something hands-on, some experience of working kind of independently on a great project, so definitely worth doing.
My name is Simon Price, and I'm a third year physics with astronomy student, and I'm the team leader for this year's Formula student team. As a team leader, I have to basically assign jobs to people. I have to make sure that everyone is working on their jobs and they're all working towards the same goal and they're achieving the time goals that we set. I'm also in charge of the money, so I have to control how much I spend and who gets what amount of money for what. That's the main things I do. So I got contacted about Formula student by Andy Cruden, who's our academic advisor, in about August. I went to a meeting with him in early September, and he proposed that we scrap what we were doing at the time, which was 750 Formula, and basically switch our focus onto doing Formula student, which for students is always the dream engineering challenge to be involved with. It's just that it involves a lot of money, and we never had that. He suggested that he will look for funding around the university, and a couple of weeks later got back to me saying, "You've got the money, you can start with the project," and that's how it started. The chassis group has probably had the toughest work and the toughest job. They had to design the whole chassis in a month and a half, which is a process which usually isn't very independent. What you normally would do is design the suspension first. You would know what engine you're using, you would find the centers of mass, and then design the chassis around it, basically just filling up the gaps and filling tubes. We didn't have this luxury. We had to get the chassis built as soon as possible because we knew it was going to take forever.
So as chassis leader, kind of responsible for the design of the chassis, various other components like sorting out seat, harness, impact generator, things like that. And then obviously manufacturer. This year we're getting an external manufacturer because we too pushed for time. Well, fundamentally, we just wanted to get a chassis finished so that we could actually compete this year. So it's not the best design. Ideally, we'd like to have done some more FEA analysis so we can minimise weight and everything. But mainly the idea of this year was just design a chassis that complies with the regulations, so get to Silverstone and fast scrutineering, which is the main goal, and then finish all the events.
So the chassis group had to, starting in October, come up with some basic designs which could be very easily changed and very easily modified, but it will also comply with other regulations which are very strict, because the chassis is the main safety cell for the driver, and the safety is very important from the student. So they've done a really good job. By December we had a design finished. By January we managed to send the designs to Andy Robinson Racing, who is a local company building the chassis for us, and we're now awaiting the chassis arrival in a couple of days. Hopefully it will look exactly the way we want it to. And it's going to be a very exciting moment as well, because we've got some suspension arms being built, we've got the engine out, we've got electronics, we're currently building other bits and pieces, but the chassis is the single biggest piece of the car, and is the single most expensive bit of the car as well. So once we finally get to see it, it will really feel like we have the car there. Because currently we've got some uprights, we've got some suspension bits, we've got the engine, but it's just not the same as having a car and being able to sit inside of it and feel what the driver is going to feel like.
Okay, what we manufactured today is part of the suspension. Here we have a nearly finished part of the wishbones. And what we have to do, we have to find a way to attach one end to the ends of our tubes, of our wishbones. And for that purpose, we need a few inserts. We'll thread into it that we can just insert into our tubes. Yeah, and those inserts we're using today. What we did already, we were cutting these small parts out of long bars. We're cutting them to length and use the diameter. And afterwards we drilled a hole into it. There's just a plain hole, an M10 hole, and what we do now is we will cut a thread into this, and we will do that measure. To cut a thread, we have this set of tools. As you can see, we have threads on these tools, and they are 3 different kinds. We're going to start drilling with that one, which you can see has a quite smooth head. Then we use this second, and the roughest as the lathe. We just drill through the whole insert, or the whole length. And that's what we do.
So the Aero group had a really tough job again, because obviously they have to design the bodywork around the chassis, which wasn't existent at the beginning of the year. So they really couldn't start the work until December, when the first sketches of the chassis arrived. They've concentrated quite heavily on wings, which we unfortunately had to choose not to use recently because of how difficult it's going to be to manufacture them, and because we haven't really proved that they're going to work. So it was my decision actually that we're not going to use them, which means that the Aero group had to pretty much start from scratch just about 2 weeks ago. So they've been working quite heavily to design bodywork which is basically attractive. That's all we care about. The aerodynamic performance is great, but with a car which is definitely heavier than competitors and underpowered, a bit more drag isn't going to move us further than maybe 1-2 spots. But a good looking car can earn us some points, and it can also really help us in the marketing side of the team to present ourselves for the next years. Obviously sponsors are definitely going to look for a very nice looking car to put their stickers on.
Currently we're working in the powertrain team under 2 PhD students, but next year we'll be taking the group lead for powertrain.
At the moment I'm designing the exhaust system and Harry's doing the intake.
Yeah, for the engine on the car. We've been designing pretty much since September, but it was quite hard to get into it at first because there's just so many different things you need to do.
The time constraints as well, just having a year to design the entire car has been quite problematic, but I think we're getting there at the moment now, and we're finally finalising the designs and getting them sent out to...
Yeah.
At the moment I'm sending them around to exhaust companies and getting it exhaust and see what kind of estimates we can get for price and time.
Yeah, it's got to the point now where we need to make final decisions and get things rolling, because we basically need the car looking presentable by the 1st of May and drivable pretty much by that time too.
We've gone kind of simple.